These are the Crying Boy paintings, a series of mass-produced prints that became infamous in the 1980s, not for their artistic merit, but for their supposed curse. They were blamed for house fires, for unexplained misfortunes, and for a chilling ability to survive the very flames that consumed everything around them. This is the bizarre and surprisingly widespread story of the Crying Boy painting. Imagine a painting, a simple, sentimental portrait of a young boy with large, tear-filled eyes. It's the kind of artwork you might find in a thrift store, a mass-produced print, kitschy and unremarkable. But then, imagine that painting hanging on the wall of a house that has just burned to the ground. Everything is reduced to ashes, except for the painting, untouched, unscorched, the crying boy staring out from the devastation, his tears seemingly mocking the tragedy. That's the image that fueled the legend of the Crying Boy paintings. It all started in 1985 in England with a series of house fires. Firefighters began to notice a strange pattern. In the charred remains of homes, they would often find a print of a crying boy, completely undamaged. The story gained traction when The Sun, a British tabloid, published an article with the sensational headline, "Blazing Curse of the Crying Boy." The article claimed that firefighters had found dozens of these paintings in the ruins of burned-out homes, and that they believed the prints were cursed, somehow responsible for the fires. The story exploded. Panic spread. People who owned Crying Boy prints, and there were many, these were mass-produced, inexpensive artworks, began to fear for their homes, their lives. The Sun, ever eager to capitalize on a good scare, even organized a mass bonfire, encouraging readers to send in their cursed paintings to be destroyed. But where did these paintings come from? And what made them so seemingly fireproof and so terrifying? The most common signature on the Crying Boy prints is Giovanni Bragolin. But Bragolin was a pseudonym, and there were actually multiple artists and slightly different crying children. The paintings are all very similar with the same features. One artist was a Spanish painter named Bruno Amadio. He painted dozens of portraits of crying children, and these prints were sold in department stores across England in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. They were popular, sentimental, and utterly unremarkable until the fires. Stories began to circulate about the origin of the paintings. One popular legend claimed that the original Crying Boy was an orphan in Spain, whose parents had died in a fire. The boy himself was said to be cursed, with fires breaking out wherever he went. An artist, drawn to the boy's tragic story, painted his portrait, only to have his studio burn down shortly afterward. The boy, the story goes, eventually died in a car crash. It's a compelling narrative, filled with tragedy and a hint of the supernatural. But like many cursed object legends, it's difficult to verify. There's no record of a Don Bonillo, the name often given to the boy, or of the artist who supposedly painted him. So, what about the fires? Were the paintings truly cursed, or was there a more rational explanation? In 2010, comedian and investigator Steve Punt looked into it. He acquired a Crying Boy print and on camera attempted to set it on fire. The result? The painting didn't burn. It scorched, but it didn't ignite. Punt's explanation was simple. The prints were treated with a fire-retardant varnish, and in a house fire, the string holding the painting would likely burn first, causing the print to fall face down, protecting it from the flames. A mundane explanation, perhaps, but it doesn't fully explain the widespread panic, the sheer number of people who believed in the curse, the firefighters who swore They'd seen dozens of these paintings survive fires unscathed. The Crying Boy paintings are a fascinating example of how a legend can take hold, how fear can spread, and how a simple, mass-produced object can become imbued with a terrifying power, not through any supernatural force, but through the stories we tell about it. And perhaps that's the real curse of the Crying Boy, the enduring power of fear, and the way it can turn a simple painting into a symbol of dread and destruction.